Ooh. All right, YouTube, we are back with another round of our Music City Crits here in Nashville, Tennessee. As always, 1, 2, 3 race. This one was an interesting one. I highly recommend staying around to the end for some heartbreaks. So we're gonna get started here. Really, this race was pretty interesting. So a lot of things to touch on, a lot of interesting tactics, a lot of really, really small details throughout this race that I want to touch on. But first and foremost, obviously Noah's out here just getting the early jump. Um, I was actually feeling pretty good, so hadn't had a super hard week this week, so I was okay to do a little bit more work, and I wanted to do a little bit more work, get the legs moving, because right after this race, I was going home, going to bed, and waking up to head up here to Wisconsin for Tour of America's Dairylands, which is why I'm not in my office today. So let's get started here. So Noah, first and foremost, getting a nice little dig here first lap. Field staying together. Lee is right behind us, and I want to give a big shout out to Lee. That guy works his butt off in this race, so big shout out to him because this is a good one, and he put in a lot of work. So big shout out to Lee. So early in this race, I wanted to stretch the legs out, really to see how I'm feeling. My goals for this race were to stay at the front. As you can see up in our map in the top left, this is the 180 course, and honestly, I don't think this is really going to be much of a 180 breakaway course, but this one has a little bit of a twist. So this week they actually released what they're calling our Gamblers Premium, where on the last with the 2 laps to go, whoever crosses the line at the end of 2 laps to go is qualified to win a big prize. I want to say it's a few $100 if you win. Now, if you don't win, that money gets transferred over to the next week, and it just keeps piling up. And at the end, if nobody wins or crosses the line first, the second to last lap, and wins the race, that money gets donated to one of our local charities that helps kids get on bikes. So super, super cool thing that they're doing. Huge shout out to the Mustangs team for helping put that together, as well as the Music City Crits. So with that being said, there are a couple rules for it also. So it's definitely making a little bit more tension in the peloton. That prize cannot be won by a solo rider off the front, so no break can go. But if we have a group of 5 people or more, that will stick and it will be accepted. So looking for bigger splits, looking for bigger moves. Don't really care about breakaways, to be honest with you. So I'm not really focused on that too much this race, especially with the 180 course. I don't think it's the best course for a break. So it has to be a more of a field split or a bigger move. So that's really what I'm looking for. So stuff like this, solo riders going off the front, really wasn't really paying attention to those guys too much. I mean, obviously we want to know they're there, but it's not really something I was worried about. I didn't really expect too much out of that. So that was really what kind of where my head was at in this race. But I'll actually touch on that here in a little bit when one of our guys goes off the front, and we actually just let him sit there for a little bit. So early in this race, nothing's really happening. We're going fast, but it's not too fast here. It's really steady. It's we're spending a lot of time just moving. But one thing I want to touch on here in a little bit also, it's not quite there yet, but my heart rate actually was pretty high this race compared to other races. So I was really keeping an eye on that throughout this race. And this guy right here, this guy's one to watch. So every week, whenever we talk about racing crits here, especially as a solo rider like me, you always got to find a couple people to mark, a couple people to watch. And David Howe here, sitting a couple wheels in front now. Or I guess we just skipped ahead, but he's definitely one to watch. So right here, good example. We've got 2 guys off the front, 2 guys here chasing, and in this case where there's only 2 guys off the front, I'm worried about it. I don't want to let that get away, but I'm not too worried about it. So for me, I'll go ahead and bring this back. We're still pretty early. At this point, I don't think a break is going to stick, but I'm also in the mind space where we can put a little bit of hurt on these people, get a little bit of split. If a split does happen, I'm okay with that. So I'm going to drop the hammer a little bit here, put some good power down. I also really like doing these kinds of efforts early in the race, just to kind of see where I'm at. I think it's a good thing for me to do personally. Just where am I at? What can I do today? Am I actually feeling good? Especially as we've already been racing a little bit. And now right here, I will be honest, I actually thought this break had a little bit of a different makeup in there. So Noah's here, and I actually thought this Hattie B's guy was a different Hattie B's guy, who's the guy right behind me, who I actually care about. The guy behind me has one of the gnarliest sprints, probably in America, to be honest with you. That guy is so fast. David Howe, huge shout out to him. Um, so I actually thought he was up in this move, and I was like, that's probably not one that we should let roll away. So even with that gambler's cream, I still want to win, obviously, so I'm not purely just saying I'm only going for that. So we are paying attention, especially if we do get the right move. I got here, I was a little bummed, thinking it was the wrong move. What was really interesting though was we bring this back, and Noah decides to go right away, and I was like, all right, well that's cool. I'm not really, not gonna chase two of them now, so. We're just gonna move around this guy and just jump right back on that wheel. So I guess following up on what I was saying earlier, getting those bigger efforts earlier in the race, it's a nice way for me personally to just kind of see where I'm at for the day, and then I can save that and say, okay, I actually am feeling good today, or I'm not actually feeling good today. And this guy's flicking us through. He just did a move. I'm moving back up. So people do that. Happens a lot in this race, where guys will they'll flick you through. They'll tell you something. They'll get mad at you for riding a certain way. It's your race. It's your race. You don't have to do anything, especially if you are a solo rider. Now, if you're a team, if you have some other stuff in there, a little bit different story there. If you're a solo rider and someone tells you to do something, that should go in one ear, out the other. Does not matter. And so stuff like this, I'm not chasing that. Not a chance. It's early in the race. He's a solo rider. Watching this team, I think it's just too early, especially. So not really worried about that one. So I'm gonna let that one go. And here, this is a good spot to kind of swing it wide, let the field absorb you, and get off of the front here. So wanted to save some energy. Now in here, so there's a couple guys off the front. Now we just skipped ahead a little bit. A couple guys that are off the front, and if I remember correctly. I don't remember who's off the front, but Lee does a big dig here, and like I said earlier, Lee was ripping to them, and he is not somebody that I want to let get away. So we're gonna jump around here. We have a little bit of a headwind here, so I actually wanted to close this gap with Lee a little bit faster, but it took some time. So I was like looking back on this, I was like, man, not what I should have done. I should have put a little more power down and actually gone there. He just goes right by everybody, so. This one definitely hurt. Shout to Lee. I thought he was going to stop here, but we just motor right on through. So definitely, I'm sure probably didn't feel good for those guys. But getting in here, eventually we'll get back on Lee's wheel here. He just cuts it a little bit more inside. I think a little more wide carry, a little more momentum. You can jump right up on there and then pull through. So Lee just did a ton of work to get there. Unfortunately, so did I, but it is all good. I'm not really trying to keep going with that, so I'm going to pull it wide. And in this case, just let everybody roll past us, because jumping up to Lee did not feel good, and I did not need two of those big efforts. So don't be afraid to do that. If you guys, again, I'm going to keep harping on this. If you're riding solo, if you're riding by yourself, don't be afraid to ride your own race. And if you need to get out, get out. But that being said, there is a time and a place to do that, and that was very prevalent in this race. So we'll be talking about that here in a minute. Now, if you watch here, JP, this guy in the black kid on the Pinarello, from Work Hard, Be Humble, he's another person to watch out for. Now, interesting thing about him, and one thing I want to touch on, is knowing your competition and where they're at. So JP's actually been up here at Toad for the last 6 days, so I'm expecting him to be a little tired today, but again, he's JP. He rips. He's not someone who you're ever going to want to count out, so I'm definitely watched for that. And then this right here, JP pulls off, so we're marking him, but this guy's going to pull me back up to this little group right here. We're just going to go for it and make sure that we stay with the leaders as much as possible, and make sure that we get as much free work, those free rides up to the front as possible. So with Lee and David Howe up there, not something I want to let get away. So that worked out pretty good. Skipped ahead a little bit more here. Now, this one is, I think, actually a pretty good points call out. So see over on the left, we've got Bratcher over here. This guy goes. Not worried about this move so much until now. JP goes, and then one other guy goes. So now it's time to go. And once we have a couple guys going, that's when it's time to go. So especially if you have a marked guy, that was kind of how I was dictating this, if I wanted to go or not. If there was someone marked, if there's not someone marked, all right, we can go. So we get back up there. Right here, Nashville local admirals actually brings us back up there, so super helpful there. Again, touched on those free rides. Get those free rides when you can. There's no sense in doing more if you don't have to. Now, right here, notice off the front, that is actually JP. So one thing I wanted to touch on here is knowing who's off the front, marking who is who, and then kind of a little bit of tactics here. So JP's off the front, knowing that he is tired. I'm okay with him being off the front because we can control this. So knowing your opponents here is huge. JP's a sprinter. That's what he is good at. He is a very, very powerful sprinter. We're pretty early in this race, so anything I can do to help fatigue that sprint, I'm going to do that. So we're going to cut ahead a little bit here, but what I want to touch on is look ahead. You can kind of see him off in the distance right here. He didn't gain much ground on us. So I don't know if he is pacing us, but I am 100% talking with these people, pacing JP, saying, hey, let him dangle, let him dangle, let him stay there. He's not gaining time on us. He gained a little bit of time here and there, but we would kind of keep that in check to make sure that he didn't get too far ahead. But as you just saw, guy in pink, Lee, that guy bridged up, and it was not what I wanted to see because that guy is someone I do not want off the front. I do not want him to dangle. So that made me a little bit nervous. I was looking for that free ride, especially here. We have a headwind right here, so this is not an area that I want to really go into. Lee was smart, went after the 180 when it's slow, and he was able to get a little momentum out of that and get that speed before this headwind. So he actually gets up there pretty quick. They're already together, so that gave me a little bit of confidence that we could get there pretty quickly. Wasn't too worried about that. And then these guys in the front, Nick here, absolute powerhouse. He broke my heart a little bit later, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But knowing that we have some power up in the front, wasn't too worried about this brake slipping away, but I was nervous, so definitely wanted to keep an eye on it and make sure that nothing really got away or got too threatening. So with Lee up there, they can start working together, and so I know that that's going to start pushing the pace a little bit. So I want to keep that in check as much as possible and make sure that people are aware. And so, people ask the crits, well, do you talk to each other? Are you guys talking? Yes. Absolutely, we are talking. This is a section, this kind of a circumstance, you have to talk to people. Because even if we're not on the same team, now these guys, Nick here and Baxter here, they are not on a team. They're also independent. That means that we are on the same team now. If we are trying to bring a move back, we are on the same team. So, super important. Now right here, we've got Nashville local, we've got Baxter, then we've got David Howe again. Now, David Howe, again, sprinter. He sees JP off the front. He probably does not like that. He sees Lee off the front. He probably does not like that either. So, I'm seeing him putting the work in. And actually, it was funny. I actually got mad at him because I felt like he was not doing much work later in the race. Watched this race back, and I was like, you actually were doing a lot more work than I thought. So, big shout out to him. He's a good dude. So, we're gonna keep this rolling. And we're starting to bring that break back. It's going pretty fast now. We're definitely getting a little nervous. I think the field is getting a little bit nervous as well. We've got representation from really everybody in here. We've got Nashville local. We've got Hattie B's. We've got the purple guys, and I can pick off the life. I remember what their team is named. So if one of you guys knows that, comment below and let me know who that team name is. So I can give you guys some proper kudos because you guys are riding good tonight. We're gonna keep it going here. Get some power down. And this is an interesting course to chase on because it is very punchy just with the makeup of the geography of the course. With these tighter turns, it does get pretty punchy, and especially in these 180 turns, it is a little funky to keep a good line through because everybody does different lines, and sometimes people break in different spots. It's pretty inconsistent, so you really have to have some heads up riding to make sure that you are doing the right things here. Or you can get gapped out like I just did there, which happens all the time if you're not expecting someone to do a certain line or certain braking. So in these kinds of courses, that's just why they get punchy, because everyone rides different. But Adam was riding good here. He's putting in a pretty good effort, and he's going to pull off here in just a second. We'll go ahead and pull through. Grab some coffee while we're doing that. So pull through, get on the straight, and you can see the power just goes up. I'm going to put it in a dig. This is the point now where I'm like, all right, we're moving. I'm just going to close this down as fast as possible. And if we gap off, that's their problem. I didn't want to wait any longer. With those people up the front, with JP and Lee, it was time to close that down. And I'd had some help, and that was kind of my thought. Is I got help to go far enough, and then we're going to do the rest of it myself. If I break off, as you can see here, got a little bit of a gap. If that happens, great. If not, great. But at the end of the day, that gap needed to be closed, and it was time. So you can see we're closing it up here pretty quick, putting in another big effort though. But remember, I talked about earlier how I did that effort earlier to really see how I was feeling, where the legs were at. I know I can do this because I just did it. I know what I'm capable of. I know how much power I can put down, and that was something that I was comfortable with because I knew where I was at for the day. So, catching them here in a pretty good gap here. Those guys are working hard. I'm ready to close this gap. And right about here, it was starting to hurt a little bit. We put a lot of power down, so I could tell that they were going a little bit faster than I thought they were. So I was very glad to see that we were actually making this gap here. And at this point, I'm not really looking back. I'm focused on getting to these guys. And so I actually don't know that there's such a big split. I'm thinking that they're either right with me, or I'm thinking that the whole field is just like right around there. I didn't realize that we had a gap now. So in hindsight, this was huge because going back to that gambler's frame, we needed 5 people and we have 6 now. So, or I'm sorry, we have 7. I think we have 7 people, or we will have 7 here in a few minutes. But we're here. We're back with the people we're marking. So it's me, JP, Lee. Yeah, we got all 7 of us now. So basically, the way this break is going to look. So we got 2 of these guys in front of us. We got me. We have Nashville local with Adam. We've got Hattie B's with David. We've got Mustangs with Matt Bratcher. And we've got the guy in white, Baxter. I don't know his first name, but he was riding absolutely phenomenal. And I'm honestly surprised at how much work he was putting out because that dude was ripping compared to everybody else. So big shout out to him. I think he was a huge marker in this race to be paying attention to. Also, big shout out to Baxter too. He's been working really hard this year. His progression from early season to now has been huge. So it's been really cool to watch, and definitely someone now where early in the year I was like, oh, we don't need to worry about that guy. We're gonna worry about him now though. So they actually yelled out, we got a split. I'm realizing how much of a split we have, and hey, we're perfect. We got everyone we need here. It's go time. So let's put the hammer down. Let's go. We're gonna start rolling this break now, which is perfect because we can get the gambler's frame and we don't have to sprint the field. So this kind of stuff right here, I want to touch on that a little bit. So Adam goes to pull. Why are you pulling off, man? If you're tired, I get it. Get out of the rotation though. This happens a couple times, and it's something that's very frustrating for everybody else because now I got to close this gap. You're going to jump right back in, and this just kind of messes everything up. So when you have a split like this, really split or break etiquette, be courteous of your other riders. Don't pull out halfway through a rotation like that. Don't try to pull up and then pull off like that. It just doesn't help anything. It actually causes more harm than good in the group. So if you're gonna do stuff like that, just stay at the back tail gun, rest up for a little bit, and then jump back in. Don't jump in if you can. So we're gonna skip ahead a little bit here. Split's rolling pretty good, but what I wanted to touch on there, JP is tailgunning. He is tailgunning a lot of this break. Look, I wasn't really aware of this as much. Like I knew he was tailgunning a little bit and skipping rotations. We're halfway through, so wasn't terribly worried about it at this point. Honestly, I kind of figured that either he was having some kind of problem or he had a cramp or something, but I wasn't really worried about him sitting in like saving energy this early, so it didn't bother me too much, but definitely something to keep an eye on, and I didn't like it. Like, I'm okay if you skip one rotation, hey, you drinking water, having a snack, you gotta tighten your shoes, I don't know. But when you start seeing a lot, be careful, don't like that. So this was something I was noticing, but what I wasn't noticing is look back here, you'll start to see some gaps open. So as I was making this video, looking back at the back camera, really starting to see a lot of gaps open up. This was not a smooth break by any means. It was probably one of the least smooth breaks I've ever been in. Right here, you can see another good example. People are pulling through. Adam right here pulls through and then doesn't. And that was kind of my last call with him. I called him out on that. Hopefully, you guys can't hear that, but called him out, and I think everyone else said some choice words for that. But in his defense, if you look in the back camera, he yelled out, "He's like, guys, I'm dead. I'm out." He pulled the ripcord pretty quickly. Parachute came out, and so in his defense, he actually was dead. So we'll give him a little bit of credit there. But all right, so now this break is blowing apart. We gotta put some power down and actually catch up to here. So bring this back together. So this corner right here, we can dive a little bit deeper, to dig a little deeper in, but so can JP. So we gotta close these gaps, make sure this break comes back together and stays together. Because now there's 6 of us, we can still get the Gambler's Cream. That's cool. And honestly, these are the 6 strongest dudes in the race. So there's no reason for this break not to stick. This is something that this is the race now, right? We have the 6 strongest guys in this race. This is who we're racing. This is everybody we'd be marking in the race anyways. So this is perfect. It's kind of just a race of who's who now. So we're going to keep it going, and we're just going to keep rolling here. So JP's getting back in the rotation. Really like to see that. So I'm kind of assuming that there was no problem. Now right here, I want to touch a note on this. So he pulls us up and then gets out of the break. He just pulled us up, so I'm going to give him a pass. At first, when I was in the race, I didn't like that too much. I knew he was skipping pulls, but watching this back, he did pull us back up there. And so I'm going to give him a little bit of credit for that because he did a lot of work to get us there. So I think he's okay to skip a pull. But right here, look at that back camera again. He is off the back. He is tail gunning again, skipping another pull. And this is making me a little frustrated now because I now don't want to work anymore. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to put in those big hero pulls. I'm not going to work hard. And then right here, you've got David going up the inside. He is a sprinter, and this is really interesting. He and I had some conversation a little bit this after this, and really interesting there because a couple different thoughts. But as a sprinter, he's going to play into his strengths of being punchy, right? So if he's going to go up the inside and sprint out of it, that's going to hurt guys like me and Lee a lot more than it's going to hurt him. Now, if he went around the outside and carried the momentum, that's going to play more into my favor because we can be smooth versus playing into his favor. So going up the inside like that, it's definitely going to play into his favor. So that's something I can see him doing. He's a very smart guy, and I can see that being something where, hey, we're going to go up the inside, make you guys sprint out of here a little bit more. So super smart there. All right, so we skipped ahead. We're about 5 minutes left in this race or so, 5 or 6. And we're going to keep this going. Now, this is where I'm starting to get nervous because we are not going very fast. And what's crazy to me is we got the 6 strongest guys in here, and this break is playing cat and mouse very, very early. JP, again, skipping moves. JP, if you're watching this, I'm going to keep calling you out because I think it's hilarious. So we're going to keep calling you out. But in this case, that's probably when I would have probably started to think about skipping moves, but probably wouldn't have started doing it yet because, unfortunately, the field is coming. Right? We can see them. We can hear them on the loudspeaker. My friend Terrell is announcing. Man, shout out to Terrell. He's amazing. He's actually up here at North America's Dairylands with me today. He's announcing for us, and every now and then when we come down here on this next straightaway, we can actually hear him, and we know the field is coming. So I'm getting nervous, but at this point, I'm making a judgment call in my head saying, hey, we've got the 6 strongest guys here. These guys are fast. They are all very, very experienced racers. There's no way we're going to let this break catch us. No way. 0 shot. Not a chance this break is coming back. So I'm kind of just letting this one play out, but you can see the field right there. They are not that far off. They're probably about 8 seconds off now, so we had a bigger gap than that. But look at my power here. We're sub-threshold. This is not a hard effort here at all. So normally when we're in a break, I'll be pushing 400 on a pull. Me doing low 300s, I'm not working hard now. So knowing that some of these guys are sitting on, I'm not going to bury myself just to get sprinted on. That's just not something I want to do. It's not how I want to race. You can see here, David, how he's coming back now. He took a very short pull. So David and JP being sprinters, they're not putting power down right now. It's, probably 3 laps to go right now or so. And with that, they don't want to do the work. They want to start sitting in, saving it for that sprint there, recovering a little bit, and not something I want to see. And so knowing that, knowing your competition again, seeing how they're racing, seeing them doing stuff like that, um, makes me not want to work. And so normally I'd say, okay, we gotta put a little bit of power down in this break. JP again pulling over here and not letting people rotate correctly here, not wanting to rotate through it all. So normally I'm gonna say, hey, we need to put a little more power down. But again, I'm not expecting these guys to let this break come back. So it's like, okay, we're safe, we'll be okay. It's just it might be a little close. Um, but at the same time, I'm getting antsy, right? I'm thinking that something is going to happen in this race. I'm thinking that a break is going to go, or an attack is going to go, something is going to happen. The field is catching us. They are getting close. You can see them over here in the left side. They are getting closer lap by lap. And I think we should be on 2 to go right now. So this is the Gambler's Premium. This is where we got to start paying attention. So those guys pull off. JP is going to start pulling through for that Gambler's Premium. And one thing I will say, conscious decision here, I don't care about the Gambler's Premium that much. I care a lot more about a race win. Um, and so for me, I'm going to pay attention to it. Also, don't care about it too much. A race win's much more important to me than the Gambler's Premium. So Bratcher's going to be here pulling through. JP's going to actually pull through. And really interesting tactic here. I wasn't expecting him to pull through, so this kind of threw me for a loop because we're 2 to go. Typically, you don't want to be in this position with 2 to go. So, or maybe we're 3 to go. We'll see. I'll tell you here in just a sec. But in this position, typically, if you're a sprinter, you're probably not going to want to be in this spot. So seeing him up here was a little bit interesting to me. But hey, that's where he's at, so that's where we're going to be. He's one of the people where if he's going to go, I want to make sure that I'm right where I'm at because that sprint is pretty aggressive. So coming around here, and yeah, I'm thinking this one was the 2 to go lap. So he's going to start going, and I didn't want to release the sprint too much, but we're going to go here, and I thought I was going to nip him at the line. I don't think I got him. But I was like, hey, I'm here. Might as well just go for it real quick. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull off here. I'm going to look and see where everyone else is at. And look back. Check that out. The field has caught us at the worst possible time for this to happen. So the field is here now, and they're going to go through. I didn't see that at first, and now I see it, and I was like, oh, crap. So Nick here, unfortunately, he's my friend, but he brought us back. So a little bummed on that. It's all good. No friends in bike racing. But he's going to attack right here. He attacks really early, and we have a lap to go, and the sprint is starting now. Holy cow, we're going to go. This was not what I wanted. This is not what I was looking for. So I actually get gapped off a little bit here because that sprint started so early, and there goes David Howe with that monster sprint. I was hurting right here more than I thought I should be. And so played this one a little poorly, and I think like looking back on this, really that sprint starting that early caught me off guard, especially after the field caught us and me kind of like not being as aware as I should have been. Caught me off guard. I feel like I had some bad positioning there, and then that break going early was kind of a perfect storm of me being caught off guard and not ready to go. So we're going to come in here, roll in to the finish, make sure I sprint. Definitely don't want to miss 5th here. We're going to finish up in 5th, and overall, man, super frustrating race. Hate to lose a race like that. Hate to get caught out of a break, but hey, that's bike racing. Looking back on this, if I was to do this race again, I think I would have tried to attack with maybe 3 to go. Knowing how this race played out in hindsight, obviously, I think that's probably what I would have tried to do differently. Seeing the field catching us, seeing people sitting on, that's probably where I would have go. So, hope you guys like this video. As always, like, subscribe, and comment. See you guys.